welcome to this edition of Stream On. I'm Jim Williams, your host, and I got to say we've got a very interesting show today. We've got Jay Denton, a talented Los Angeles-based music producer, songwriter, and musician who is bringing the world together with music. Now, we talk about his Amazon Prime documentary, Endure Lebanon. It's the first of a documentary series that follows Jay as he traveled to the destabilized regions of the world in order to create and produce music with those affected by war, terror, and persecution. And Endure Lebanon is the first one. It's a phenomenal documentary and lots of fantastic music. Jay brings the world together, with music. And Jay, it's a pleasure to chat with you, and hope you're doing well out there in LA under some tough conditions. Let's talk about Endure Lebanon and what you got going there at Endure Studios out in Los Angeles.
All right. Well, again, with what I do as a founder of Endure Studios here in Los Angeles, I work with artists, multiple different types of artists here, and we write songs and record songs, and I produce records here in Los Angeles. So right now, really what's been priority one is just me working on the records I'm working with artists here in Los Angeles. We've gotten, last year throughout the year, and then especially towards the end of the year, we put out the Endure For Home album with featuring refugees from Syria and Iraq that I recorded in Beirut. And then we put out through Peaceful Seed Productions, put out a documentary called Endure Lebanon about that process. And all that happened kind of at the very end of 2020 or towards the end of 2020. And so now we're rocking and rolling, just doing the work that we do, writing and producing with artists here in LA.
Where can we stream that, the music, and also see the documentary?
So right now, you can stream the music on any source that you use. So it's available on iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon. It's available anywhere digital music is streamed. Okay. So that's available there. And then for the documentary, the best way to go view the documentary would just be through our website at this point. If you go to www.endurestudios.org, we've got the links up there for you to get connected to the documentary.
Cool. So, we talked about last year. We talked about that whole endeavor with the music in Syria and that whole project, and that seemed to be a project that was very much part of who you want to be known for, as somebody who brings the world together in a number of different ways. It had to be fulfilling that you actually got the record done and now it's out and people can enjoy it.
Yes, definitely fulfilling. I've been making records for a while now, for years, and but this project, one, it was a bigger endeavor than any album I've ever taken on before. Just working with multiple languages and multiple countries and bringing songs and styles together. So it was a massive endeavor, but it was also incredibly rewarding. Very, very exciting to do that. And some of my favorite moments were really just getting on WhatsApp video calls with artists here in Los Angeles, with the artists in Beirut that's from Syria, and getting them to meet each other, and getting to connect artists from different sides of the world with completely different life experiences. So it's been a very rewarding project, start to finish.
Now, did you lay down the tracks? The artist would lay down a track and then you bring it back and then mix it together. How did that work? How was logistically? You've got artists in LA, you've got artists in Beirut, you've got artists all over the world. How do they lay the tracks down and send them to you? How does that work?
No, I was actually there for everything. Yeah. So what I started doing before I went to Lebanon, I started just listening to a lot of music, both on more traditional and more modern side that was coming out of Syria, coming out of Iraq and Lebanon, and just really that style of music in general. And so I started building some in producer talk. We build these little banks of sounds. And so I started building these little sound banks, especially with drums, of more Arabic style drums. And so I'd start kind of building these little sound banks. And then what I really did is when I went to Beirut, I spent the first couple days just kind of being there, and I started building some tracks based on the sounds that I'd kind of put together and based on the things I was hearing and things that inspired me. So I started building a couple tracks, but then mostly what we did is I'd start working with the artists, and we'd kind of get the concept of a song, and I'd be building the track while we're writing the song, like at the same time. And then once we get kind of enough of a sense of the track down, really just enough to be able to track vocals to it, we'd go ahead and track the vocals to it out there in Beirut. And then what happened is I essentially recorded just a lot of stuff in Beirut. And then I came back to the US and would figure out ways to either take something we'd recorded there and then add a verse and a chorus in English with an American artist here, with an LA artist, or I would have done that already in my mind. I'd kind of write a song that we'd start tracking out there, but I'd already leave space for it because I'd kind of have in my mind the idea of what I wanted the LA feature artist to do. So it kind of went that way. And then when I came back to the US, there were a couple things that I'd taken a ton of notes from just talking with the refugee community, getting their stories and everything. And I felt like we still had some song ideas, and there was a lot of their story that we hadn't actually tapped into yet on the record with what we'd recorded. So I started some ideas here in Los Angeles, and then went back to Lebanon and worked with some of the same artists again to track to me what was really the untold part of their story, and then came back to Los Angeles and put it all together, mixed it, had some feature artists on it, and then we put it out.
In many ways, one of the most amazing situations, and I think to most of us, you don't know it till you're there, the old saying goes, right?
Yeah.
You go back into the day, like when Paul Simon went to Africa and brought back, the album, and everybody was like, they had no idea what to expect. And then they heard it and they're like, well, it's music. It's like, I'm not sure what people expected, but, music is music. Somebody I actually went to high school with is Dr. Christopher Waterman. And for those of you who don't know who Chris is, he just retired last year as the dean of UCLA's music department, and he specifically taught a very unique thing. One was music, but he also taught archaeology and world history and world studies. And so what Chris was trying to do, and did very well at UCLA, was merge the fact that music is the one universal language that we all share, but there's different variations on a theme, right? And just like the languages themselves, music has, a different tone, a different lyric, a different style. But when you bring them all together and you bring musicians together, it's almost like, and as I continue to roll analogies out there, and I'd like your take on this, it's like a fusion restaurant, right? You go, you go to LA and you got a lot of Asian Mexican fusion, okay? And you're like, well, I'm not really sure what this is all about, right? Until you go there and you go, this is not bad. This is good stuff. And pretty much what you've done, like Chris, is you've come up with, in essence, a fusion album. Is that fair?
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Definitely, it'd be a fusion album. And I think too, one of the things I find as a creative, right, are as a creative, you have the vision you have for something creatively, and then you have whatever tools you have in that moment, right?
Right.
So, if you were to give if you were to give an artist a pencil, or you were to give them an easel with a bunch of different kinds of paint, well, they can still use whatever tool they have to create something. It's just going to
Hmm.
be different based on the tools. And so I think with that concept of a fusion album, it's like one of the really inspiring things as a music producer is to be around something, especially if you've written a lot of songs, right?
Hmm.
What's really inspiring is to hear sounds that are different than the ones that your ear normally gravitates towards.
Sure.
Again, it would be like if I was a pencil artist and all of a sudden someone said, all right, we want you to paint this picture, but there's no pencil, here's paint. And it's that figuring out of, oh, okay, this is different than what I normally do. So you're going to create something that's different than what you normally do. And to me, that's one of the most exciting things artistically about that. And it was neat for me working with the refugee community. One, because I got to work with some phenomenally talented artists. You just hearing a couple of the girls on this album sing was unbelievable, and they're so talented, so good. And currently, they really have had really zero opportunities given everything circumstantially with the war and having to leave
Hmm.
everything and whatnot. But they just have enormous talent, and get some of these guys that have amazing stories to tell, that are really gifted musicians. And so I had really, when we came to this album, getting to hear them and be inspired by them gave me different ideas. And then for them, when they would hear things, one of the artists there, a girl named Ms. Geen Kalu, who's phenomenally talented, she would hear some of the stuff that I'd do, and she would be really inspired by it because it was slightly different than the music she was singing out there. And so I think that at its best, a fusion album becomes something where both cultures are inspired by something that they're hearing or something that they're seeing from the other side, and then that fuels them creatively in a way that is different from them. At its worst, the fusion album would be, if I went over there and I played them something and they were like, "This sounds terrible. We like our music better," or if I went over there and I heard them play or do their thing and was like, "Oh, I'm not inspired by it," then I'd probably have a pretty terrible album. But thankfully, that's not what happened. We were, I think, really inspired by each other and by the visions that we kind of put down in these songs. And I'm really pretty incredibly proud of this record, and proud of all the artists that were a part of it.
Why don't you, if you could, talk about some of the artists who were part of it, who were LA artists?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. There are a few. There's one artist that I work with here at Endure Studios now. I work with him all the time. His studios is right next to mine. He's here at Endure Studios
Hmm.
every day, and it's an artist named Aaron Kellum, who I'd known in Los Angeles as a co-writer, and he'd written things with other artists that I've worked with, and I'd always really thought he was a great musician, songwriter, and artist. And then when I was working on this one song with a guy named John Matthew, who's an
Hmm.
Iraqi refugee living in Beirut, I just thought Aaron would be a great fit for it. So I, met with him in Los Angeles, talked to him about the project. He was excited about it, so we got in and wrote the rest of the song together, and it worked really well. So, Aaron is a fantastic singer songwriter here in LA. There's another artist that I work with quite often named Faith Richards, who is an amazing R&B R&B pop fusion singer here in Los Angeles.
Hmm.
And so same thing. I'd started the song with Sozda Mo, who is from Afrin, Syria, met in Beirut and started working on this one song called One Day with. And I had kind of in my mind Faith's voice I thought would fit really well on it. So I came back and talked with Faith about the project, and we wrote it, and Faith came in, and pretty much in one day we took, the song that I'd carved out a verse, chorus, for the English part, and we worked through it really in a day. She laid down her vocals that same day, and that's one of the reasons I work so much with Faith now, is because that session went so well, and she sounds so good, and she's such a good writer that I just want to keep working with her creatively. So those are two. Then I was really excited. I got Charles Jones on a feature with Soza again. Charles Jones, I knew Charles from college originally. He was a senior when I was a freshman, and even at the time, he was the best musician I'd ever met. I mean, he's both the best pianist and keyboard player and the best singer I think I've probably ever heard in my life in person. And he was playing. He was kind of the main guy, band leader with Jennifer Hudson for years. Now he's with Andra Day, and he's just played with so many huge artists. And so I talked to him about the project, and he was excited to jump on one, and so he did a feature. So I think really one of the cool things to me is what I wasn't sure about is, all right, when I approach artists in Los Angeles that have their own careers and have their own thing going, one, are they going to be excited about the concept of, doing a feature with an album that's probably very different than anything they've done before? And then two, when we really get in there and work on it, is the sound going to work? Like, stylistically, is there going to be enough cohesiveness that it sounds like this song really works? And I was really kind of blown away with how well it came together.
I know exactly what you're talking about. It, as a working in television and producing different projects, you have that moment when you put something on paper, and you start thinking about it, and you go, okay, well, this is what I think it's going to turn out to be, and this is what I hope it'll be, and all that. And you're telling other people about it. It really doesn't. You really don't know what's going to happen until that last minute when everybody sits down and goes. The tape starts rolling or the event starts or whatever, and then you realize, okay, I got it. It's working. So you really, it's all concept until everybody gets in the room and starts working.
Yep. And to me, it just goes to show you, when you gotta, at a certain point with anything creatively, you have to take the risk. And I think really the best creations come from sometimes some of the riskiest moves.
Well, for sure.
And
you're not willing to take the risk, then you don't get it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, if something's a sure thing, well, it's a sure thing because it's probably not that novel of an idea. It's not that outside of the box, or it's been done before so many times. You can do it and do it effectively.
Well, it's safe.
And yeah, exactly. So we're not good at playing things safe here at Endure Studios.
I get that. I mean, I think that's the part of the process that is the difference between moving forward and staying stuck in the middle. You can play safe forever, but safe's not going to break any ground.
And I think one of the best ways to keep moving forward and get out of that rut of just sort of reinventing what we've already done before as creatives is to start working with people that have a different creative bent on things, or have different types of creative visions, or have different life experiences that give them different ideas on something. And again, there's always risk in that, because you start working on a creative project and you really work with another artist. Of course, their artistry is going to affect the direction of it and everything like that. So there's that risk, but again, that's to me where the beauty of it comes. And so, when I think about with Endure Studios, really where we're going, I've really loved stepping into this, really kind of pioneering this concept of these global albums with this Lebanon project, and I'm really excited about it. And then, of course, a lot of our sort of next plans have all been put on hold for a bit with the pandemic. It's made things like international travel and all of that very, very interesting. But I'm kind of chomping at the bit now to get back overseas and work on the next global album. I'm looking at the goal for the next one is to go back to. I've spent some time in East Africa before, in Kenya, Uganda, and South Sudan primarily, and so the goal right now is to go back to East Africa and work with artists that were affected by the war in East Africa, particularly the war with the LRA, that spanned really multiple countries, but especially northern Uganda, South Sudan has been where most of my experiences and most of my contacts are over there with people that were affected by that war. So I'm looking to go back there, and we're going to make another album. Make an album there. Jake Green, the director of the documentary Endure Lebanon, is on board to come back and make another documentary for the next project in East Africa, and we're ready to roll.
One of the things that I think, if we can just change subjects for just a sec, that has become very important over the last decade, but more importantly, I would say over the last 5 years, is how many people have been able to access different types of music because of the streaming services. You don't necessarily have to go, there's a lot of places in this world there you just get into a record store or buying either a CD or whatever, you use to play your music on, has become a problem. But because of streaming services, you can put an MP3 file and some other stuff out there, and boom, bang, you've got yourself, you can get your music out to millions and millions of people that, via iTunes, via Spotify, via Amazon, so many other streaming aspects, you can really get the word out. How has that helped someone like yourself, with your studio, with the artists that and the community there in LA, where there's a lot of different diverse music genres being produced all at the same time?
Yeah, the music industry has seen a massive shift over really the last 20 years with the dawn, and even before streaming was just the concept of people purchasing music digitally versus purchasing CDs, and really one of the biggest shifters in the music industry was the change from people actually buying CDs to buying singles, to where we used to we'd listen to the radio that would be a mix of songs, or we'd make mixed tapes or mixed CDs, but most of the time if you're listening to an album, you're listening to an album. And so this shift from listening to albums as whole things to listening to songs individually was a big shift. And now the shift from having to actually purchase a record, and obviously none of us are purchasing infinite records, to now for $9.99 a month you have access to every song that's pretty much exists on the digital in the digital world, or really you can access them almost everything free on YouTube. So what's there challenges with that on the music industry side that I know a lot of songwriters have been working a lot in that space to try to figure out how musicians still make money with a free product. But on the flip side, there's such a beautiful thing about it, and it's you could have someone record something on a laptop in Pakistan, and anyone in the world can hear it. And we can record an album like this and then put it out there. And just last year we had people from over 100 different countries had listened to this record.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something really beautiful about that of, all right, you create something and you put it out there and people are going to hear it. And of course we did some marketing stuff to get that album out here in the US,
Sure.
did some pushes to, get the word out in Lebanon, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But, we weren't making marketing pushes in Indonesia or trying to get a bunch of people in Indonesia to listen to this record. And still we'd get a lot of listeners from Indonesia and South Asia and South Africa, and so I think from a global perspective, there's never been a better time to engage in collaborations and get your music heard by people across the world.
Yeah, and the other part of the equation too is that you've got this amazingly interesting, this amazingly interesting way of doing it without things being, too bad. You can deliver the stream, you can deliver the music directly to the consumer, and it's one of the great things. They'll figure out how to monetize it, eventually. But
and they already are.
Yeah, and they have. But I've also seen a lot of the groups, right, that have gone directly to, just they don't like the concept of having to try to get something done with, with a label, for instance. But they figure, all right, let me just take it directly to my fans, or they don't have a label and they try to take it directly to the fans. So there's a lot of different ways of getting there, but it definitely is a plus. And certainly, as you said, with your product, over 100 countries, you got the opportunity to sample it, and that's pretty darn good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I love the element. Technology has made the creation of music so much more accessible as well. I mean, for instance, if I were to do a project like this in the past, I would have to try to find a studio space in Beirut that I could rent out and hire engineers to come in and run, because they probably would run things differently than we do here. There'd be so many. I was able to take, with a giant sort of backpack with gear in it and whatnot, and a duffel bag. I was able to take a mobile studio that I could set up anywhere in Lebanon that has if I have a power outlet, I can make music. And if I have a power outlet, I could go anywhere in the world and actually work on a record. And that is pretty inspiring to me. And sure, of course, you get a much better quality recording if you're in a wonderful studio, of course. But the fact that we can go out into a refugee camp and set up a little studio with a folding table and actually record songs that I can come back and mix here and actually have it sound good is pretty amazing.
It is. I mean, think about it. It's it's like the old everything old is new again. It's like taking the old reel-to-reel tape recorder that weighed 700 pounds and dragging it out, in the middle of nowhere and recording a band in a garage somewhere in the middle of, of Ireland, and bringing it back and saying, oh, guess what? We just found out what U2 sounds like. It's one of those things where necessity is the mother of invention. And, you go out and you do these kind of gonzo projects, but at the end of the day, you bring it back, you sweeten it out, and you got something magic.
And it'd be interesting to see the way that this changes people's music taste around the world. Because even, when I was growing up, I didn't necessarily have a lot of access. I mean, sure, I could probably go to a world music section in a record store, right? And a CD store, but what I'm listening to on the radio or what albums I'm buying, I'm not hearing music from artists in South Asia or Russia or Argentina, in all of these places, and
Mm-hmm.
and now really with music consumption the way it is, we can
Mm-hmm.
we can go on and we can listen to albums, songs with artists from all over the world, any particular place in the world, and you can see how that'll start shifting people's music taste. Because instead of having your favorite food out of 5 foods, you can pick your favorite food out of 500 foods.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have access to more. And so it's been a neat thing, even with the artists that I work with here in Los Angeles. I mean, we've seen kind of this big spike in a couple of my artists' listenership in
Mm-hmm.
Taiwan and South Korea. And another artist I work with here in Los Angeles signed a record deal with the Japanese record label, but they're not trying to have him, they're not putting him out as a Japanese artist. They're putting him out as a American U.S. artist, but he signed with a Japanese label, and they've got his music going up in English, and then they're doing Japanese translations of it for music videos. It's just really, really kind of a cool time to see. All right, if you really create something and it's good, you can have a fan base, in hundreds of different countries around the world.
Well, we found out, in the streaming video business, right, that
Mm-hmm.
that people now, no matter where you are in the world, consume so many different products and so many different. I mean, I'm watching shows from Australia, from Sweden, from Malaysia, from all
Mm-hmm.
over the world. Now to the point where, and I've been in this business now for 40 years, where for the first time in my life, if somebody says to me, "Hey, what's the prime time lineup on NBC? Monday through Sunday," I can't tell you because I haven't seen, I haven't watched any specific network television shows in like 2 years. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
watched some network shows, but not any, not where the old TV guide situation was. You knew, if I wanted to watch, if, Thursday night I have to see Seinfeld. Well, no, I don't have to. I mean, I can, since it's on demand, prime time is whatever time you want it to be. And the consumption of whatever it is, whether it's not, a comedy from Australia, or one of these noir mysteries from Sweden or Norway or something like that, you can watch it whenever you want to watch it. Same thing now
Mm-hmm.
with, as you said, with music. If I find something I like, I'm going to throw it on my Spotify, list and put it out there. And that's the other part. You've got people, because of the influencers and the people, different people on Instagram and Twitter and otherwise, you suddenly have people, sharing their music tastes with these music lists and playlists and saying, "Hey, look, I don't know if you've heard this, but give it a shot." In one tweet or one post on an Instagram, suddenly, 105 million people have a chance to understand something about or discover something they didn't even know existed 10 minutes before they checked their Instagram.
Certainly. Yep. Yeah. So the dissemination of art is more. Yeah. We live in the most prolific time in terms of the dissemination of art in world history, and so that to me is one of the reasons why what's really going to drive things in the future is creating something and then finding a way to get what you create, get the people across the world, get the people
Right.
that have access to it. How do you get them to actually listen to it and hear it? But so, obviously it's a challenge, but what a cool opportunity to be able to, and even when in the world of marketing now, and that's not my field at all whatsoever. I'm very much on the creative side, not on the marketing side. But the fact that you could put out a Facebook ad and specifically market to people in one country of a certain age group that
Sure.
tend to really like the type of music you make. And
Right.
you can,
Geo-targeting. Yeah.
oh yeah. So,
It's amazing. All right. Well, it's shameless plug time. So
all right,
whatever you
hit me.
want to get out there, give us how to get it, what you want people to check out, and all of your social media as well. So you're on, my friend. Go
Certainly.
for it.
All right, so my name is Jay Denton, and you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, etc. It's just at Jay Denton on Instagram, at Jay Denton Music on Facebook, and then Endure Studios, which is really what I would love for you to follow. It's the best way to get engaged with what we're doing and stay engaged.
Mm-hmm.
We don't send out many emails, but we try to send out like a monthly newsletter. Is through our website. So if you go to endurestudios.org. Very soon we'll be shifting to endurestudios.com.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, endurestudios.org, you can find out all the information about how you can stream this documentary, how you can follow us on different social media platforms, where you can stream the music based on if you listen on Apple Music or Spotify.
Right.
And you can see really all of the different artists that we work with here at Endure Studios. What's been really exciting to me over the last, couple years has just been seeing Endure Studios grow from this thing where it's just primarily, my business, writing songs for myself
Right.
and producing songs for myself and for a couple other artists, to really having this big group of artists that are now a part of what we're doing at Endure Studios, both here in Los Angeles, California, and around the world. So check us out on our website. Follow us on Instagram. It's probably where we're the most active with regular content. So follow Endure Studios at Endure_Studios. And we will keep you posted on the next things we're doing.
Cool. Now, Jay, one last thing. With regard to those who go out there and follow you on the website, if they're interested, if they're performers, or if they play music, or they want to get involved in one way or another, can they do that through this? Can they contact you through the website?
Yes, we've got a contact form there, and shoot us an email. We'd love to talk with anyone that's interested.
Special thanks to Jay Denton, our guest this week, and be sure to check out his Amazon Prime documentary, Endure Lebanon. All the other information on Endure Lebanon and how you get involved with Jay, or certainly find his music, is in our show box below. We'll be back with more of Stream On right after this from Ford.
This country has a strange relationship with the wild. As much as we talk about it, and paint paintings of it, and sing songs about how we're destined to be it, we seem to spend every waking hour in places that keep us away from it. So to get back to the wild, we need something built for it. Something that acts like it's been out here before. Because it has. Introducing the return of a legend. The all-new Bronco 2-door. The first ever Bronco 4-door. And the adventure-ready Bronco Sport. Built to get you to all those places you normally only see in nature documentaries. Built for capability, for adventure, for enjoying the open air, on the open road, in the parts of the world without posted speed limits. Because if something is going to be called a Bronco, it better be able to live up to that name. Meet the future of off-roading. The all-new Bronco family.
Welcome back, everybody. Now, if you're not one of the over 50,000 people worldwide who've subscribed to the podcast, well, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, we make it simple. It's free. You can get us at the Apple Podcast Store, Google Play Store, as well as Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, and, of course, YouTube. Also, if you happen to have one of those wonderful connected devices, who are assistants like Google or Siri or, of course, Alexa, all you have to do is ask them to play the latest edition of Stream On with Jim Williams, and they will do it for you, okay? So we make it simple. Now, even if that doesn't work, pull out the old Google machine and type in Stream On with Jim Williams. Hit the favorite button or subscribe button. Every week you get a brand new edition of the podcast sent directly to your phone, your tablet, or to both, okay? All right. So please go out there, as I said before, and do that for us. We greatly would appreciate it, okay? Very cool. All righty. What are the headlines? Well, the headlines, a couple of CBS shows will not be returning after their 8th season. Mom, which of course was anchored by the very talented Allison Janney, is not coming back. It's a Chuck Lorre produced show. So, it's done very well over the past 7 years, but last couple years has been a little difficult, so after season 8, that'll be the end for Mom. Part of the very successful NCIS franchise is losing one of their bureaus, and that would be New Orleans. Scott Bakula and the gang in New Orleans will not be back after their 8th season on CBS. So those are two pretty much anchor shows that had good followings, but the ratings kind of went by the wayside the past couple of years, and that's how things work in these times in this business. So if you're a fan of Mom or of NCIS New Orleans, I expect that they'll have a good ender to how this whole thing goes down, because a lot of shows don't know they're getting canceled. Well, if you know this far ahead of time, well, then you can write it out and you can decide how to end it on your own terms. And as a writer, I think that's one of the best ways it can be done. So kudos to the folks at Mom and at NCIS New Orleans. We wish them all the best. They have been fantastic programs, and jobs well done. Okay. A couple things that you should know. Discovery Plus is having a phenomenal growth in their first, it's almost been a month now that they've been on, the service has been available to stream, and they keep adding subscribers at a rapid pace, over 55,000 hours of content. And I have to say, as someone who has watched Discovery Plus, it is definitely priced right at around $5 a month. It is a phenomenal deal. So check it out. Take the 7-day trial. Lots of good stuff there. Now, if you are a Discovery Plus fan, or if you're a fan of HGTV, Chip and Joanna Gaines. Well, the Magnolia Network, which was set to launch early this summer, will not be launching now until 2022. And a lot of that is COVID related, and so some of the programs didn't get out of the gate as they hoped that they would. But, I think that when you're starting a new network, and I've done this myself, having started 3, sometimes things don't go the way you want them to. And certainly no one could have foreseen what was going on with the pandemic. And so the putting it off till 2022 makes sense. So coming in 2022, either in January or February, will be the Magnolia Network. Now, that doesn't mean you don't get an opportunity to see Chip and Joanna and some of the folks who are going to be part of their new Magnolia Network, and that is because you can find those, again, back on Discovery Plus. So check out Discovery Plus. It's something that I think you'll greatly appreciate. Okay. What to watch this weekend, huh? Well, there's a lot of really good stuff, but let me give you one that I really think is worth the time. It's a Netflix movie. It's called I Care a Lot, and Rosamund Pike absolutely nails it in this show. It is a dark comedy. and it will make you think. I can assure you of that. It is absolutely amazing. So, Peter Dinklage and Rosamund Pike are awesome in this show, and it is something I honestly believe you should not miss. So check that out on Netflix this week. I think it'll be something that you will enjoy. So by all means, check out that. Also, if you're a soccer fan, again on Netflix, Pele, the greatest soccer player of all time, has a documentary being done about him and how he kind of framed what was going on in soccer and also in his entire country. So that is Pele. It's coming on the 23rd this week on Netflix. Okay. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and his show on NBC, as well as Keenan and his new show. They both debuted this week on NBC. You can find them on Peacock on demand, and definitely worth checking out. Two good, solid comedies. And even after the Super Bowl, over on CBS, you can catch this on CBS All Access, is the show The Equalizer with Queen Latifah. Now, it got monster ratings with the Super Bowl as a lead-in, and it has stayed that way. It's a very strong show. Queen Latifah does an outstanding job in the lead in that show, and something that I think that all of you should check out. So, take a look at them. If you have any ideas over the weekend and you see something that I haven't talked about, by all means, let me know. Just hit me up on the email at Jim Williams Media. That's jimwilliamsmedia@gmail.com. All the information is in the show box below. Okay, everybody, thanks to Jay Denton, who has joined us today. And all the information on Jay's projects, and he's got a lot of them going, is in our show box. So until next time, I'm Jim Williams saying have a wonderful and safe weekend. And enjoy your streaming, folks. It's going to be cold out there. If you've got friends and family in Texas, we wish them all the best. We're praying for you, and we hope that things get back to normal as soon as possible. They're hurting down there. So keep an eye on what's going on in Texas, and if you can help them out in any way, please do your best. Send a little money to the Red Cross. It never hurts. All right? Okay, folks. As I said, until next time, for the entire team here at Stream On, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next weekend. Take care.